magic record button. Now, are your pencils at the ready?
Yep. Sharpened.
They're sharpened, are they? Because it's the warm-up. It's the marketing quiz time.
Here we go.
Here we go. Now, no cheating. I know you won't cheat. Only joking. This is our little warm-up now. There's a little quiz here on marketing slogans. I thought I'd do this just to kind of get you going. You know, if you get them all right, there's a prize. There's a prize. Not a prize, not even money can buy. It's a night out with me in Malton.
When they open.
There's a second prize, 2 nights, and so yes, it'll be a budget night out in Malton. So here we go. So just write it down as we go along. So first one, which company's slogan was the king of beers? Ooh. Have you all written that down? Yes. And here we'll have a drum roll. Have you all got? What's your answer? Anyone want to take us this?
Is it Budweiser?
Oh, he's on Italy. Oh, he's on it tonight.
Yeah.
He's on it tonight. Well,
Yeah.
I won't ask you if you've consumed much of this because that will be a leading question. So anyone got Budweiser? You're still in the game. Next on the list, a diamond is forever. Ooh.
Diamond is forever.
A diamond is forever. This isn't James Bond.
I'm going to say Shirley Bassey.
Yes, quite, yes. So,
Only I can think of. Anyway, go on.
Go on, drum roll. A
The
diamond
only thing
is
I can
forever
think
is
of. Was there not a drink called Double Diamond?
before my time.
All right. Anybody else can remember those times?
Before my time. I'm sorry. If you believe that, believe anything. Right. Let's. Oh, here we go. There we go. Beers. Yeah.
Well, we got that.
Right, next up, it's the real thing. Okay. Slogan.
It's the real.
It's the real thing.
Not got a clue.
I haven't got a clue. Come on. Everybody, little drum roll. Everybody got answer to number 3.
Who said Coke?
Yeah.
Yay. Coca-Cola. Boy, partly you could argue the world's most famous brand.
Yep.
Yeah.
How do you fancy this one on question 4? Impossible is nothing. I never meant that. You're actually not meant to win the prize.
I was going to say, I'm not at this rate. Definitely not.
You're not meant to win the prize. Anyone fancy this one? Drum roll. Impossible is nothing.
Nope.
Any takers?
No.
No. Oh.
I wouldn't have got that in a million years.
Wow.
Adidas. Yeah.
Yes.
Do they still use that today?
That's a good question. And if you want to,
I'll Google it.
Google it. I'm going to say, Matt. Yeah.
Right then.
Ooh.
Who knows what so I should say
BMW.
He's on the game, isn't he?
BMW.
Yep. BMW.
Tell him a car, man.
You can tell you're a car man. There we go. And next on the list, our little game, yes, the best a man can get.
It's not Gillette, is it?
Yeah, Gillette.
Yeah.
I'm thinking Gillette. Yeah, that's not bad. Yeah.
Not bad.
10 at least.
I nearly said Brute.
You can still buy that.
Can you? Was that Henry Cooper and the likes, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. It was. Yeah.
There we go. And I think last on the list in our quiz. Oh, think different. Think different. Any takers on think different?
Give us a clue.
Think probably the world's biggest brand.
McDonald's.
Cold.
Oh.
Unilever?
No. I might want to take a bite out of this.
Apple.
Apple.
Here we go.
Yeah.
So what a shame. Nobody got 7. The prize has never been given out.
It's a rollover.
Rollover. Yeah, that's right. Well, thank you. I hope you enjoyed tonight's webinar, and have a nice evening.
Done.
Have a nice evening, everybody, and hope you enjoyed that. Anyway, let's move on to the name of the game. So we've all had a little introduction to ourselves. I'm going to crack on. How about this? Now, how this is going to work, I'm going to sit here and tell you all about marketing, and you feel free at any stage, to ask any question you so choose. But hopefully, the end of this is I'm going to tell you a little bit about the strategic marketing, and we're going to end with putting together a little marketing plan. How does that sound?
Yep.
So,
Good.
The whole point of doing the first exercise is twofold. One is to show that there are, even for the world's biggest brands, that in principle you've probably seen it all the time, but it doesn't always sink in. So you can imagine how challenging it is for a small brand sometimes to get themselves known, because this leads on to this particular point. It is estimated from the time you wake up in the morning to the time you go to bed, if you're using a phone or you're walking around the streets, watching the TV, listening to radio, how many marketing messages do you think you are likely to see during an average day? Any guesses? It is literally, it depends on if you live in urban or rural.
200,000.
Sorry?
200,000.
Well, it's interesting you say that, because it so much depends on how much you spend time on your phone and things like that. But it's estimated as a bare minimum, you may see up to 2,000 marketing messages. Even when you open your own fridge and you take something out of the fridge, or you're looking on the packet of cereals, you'll encounter literally thousands of marketing messages. Listen to the radio, looking down your Facebook feed, etc. You see thousands of messages. We are surrounded by them. Even in moments of lockdown and stuff, there's still a lot around, and even computer usage and phone usage has gone up in that time. So the big question for any business is, why should somebody see you, hear your message? And that really strikes to the heart of marketing. The best way for you to get your message to a client or a potential client is to make sure it's correctly targeted, and ideally something which is memorable. A bit like when we had the BMW one. Adrian said straight away, I'm a car man, I know that. But some of the others are a little bit more obscure. So you can all little maybe out of your day, but thinking really marketing ultimately is about delivering a message to a target audience and making it stick. Okay? Cover that very much. So you've got this issue about thinking really carefully who your target audience is. There are books written on this subject, and I'm going to throw it open to the audience. Would anybody like to give me a sentence as to what they think marketing is? One sentence, succinct sentence. Let's define what marketing is. Who fancies having a stab at that?
Communication.
Communication, Dan. Great. Any others? Anything to add to that?
Strategic approach to encapsulating your target audience to buy into your brand.
Oh, I tell you what, that was a good one. Hang on a second, I'm just going to write that down. Very good, hey, brilliant. And you know, you're both right, but there are estimated to be about 72 different definitions of the phrase marketing, what it means, something else. So communication and your strategic kind of approach, not saying they're wrong. the classic marketing definition is one which is often known, and when we want to Google this, the 4 Ps is considered to be kind of like the umbrella view, but they encapsulate a lot of what's said. And I was going to take you through this. So the 4 Ps: the right product, in the right place, at the right time, at the right price. And now the right time often is often known as product, price, promotion, place. So I'll cover this as a whole topic in itself, and it's really covered in this next slide. If you go to the left, it is what your product is. So the brand, the service, the packaging, what it actually is. Then the price on the right, you know, are you discounting it? Where are you positioning it? Are you in supermarket terms, if I can put it this way? Are you, Poundland, or are you Fortnum and Mason? The place is how you are getting the product to the customer. So is that sold in a shop, a retail, or is that sold online, or a combination thereof, through a third party, direct to the customer? And then the bit that often people say is the heartbeat of marketing is the promotion element. In effect, how you get your message to your audience and all the activities. So product, price, promotion, place is what we may be known as often a textbook way of thinking about marketing. We'll cover these bits throughout our time together. So the next question, I suppose, on the back of that, well, now we've got kind of a definition of marketing. Would anyone like to tell me what the difference between sales and marketing is? Or is there a difference? Any takers?
Sales are the results of good marketing.
Sales is the result of marketing.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay. Great.
So, with sales, is there a contract?
No, that's a great point. And I'll put the differentiation in these terms. Again, there's lots of different, but in effect, marketing is everything you do to reach and persuade prospects. Whereas sales is everything you do close a sale. So often you can see it that marketing creates the demand, and sales closes the demand. So you could argue in retail terms, marketing is there to get people into the shop, and the sales process begins the moment people walk through the door. Or in online terms, marketing is a similar, getting people onto the site, and then there's an element of the sales process. The key word on this slide is that it's marked in red. And this is the essence of marketing, and it's everything. And I mean everything. So it's about the product, it's about the way you dress, it's about the way you answer phone, it's about your invoices, about your customer service, it's the way you look at customers, the way you speak to customers, the tone, the way your vans are, everything. Absolutely everything. It isn't just associated to the shop front or the website or whatever it might be. Everything. So that in effect is brand. So the other way of looking at it is that, gosh, isn't it nice to see a picture of Leeds scoring a goal? Don't see that very often. So only joking. Marketing crosses the ball, sales puts it in the net. So the two are very closely allied. So think of marketing and sales often running in that way. Now, one of the biggest elements where marketing and sales crossover is in the world of customer service. Now, if you read virtually any marketing textbook or the latest thinking, is that business invariably is won through marketing, but kept through customer service. Nobody wants to be in that type of situation, and we can all come up with probably notes and thoughts about where we've had good customer service and where we've had not so good customer service. Also from the other side of the fence, where we believe we have covered, given great service, and where maybe we think we haven't. But news travels kind of fast. Customer service, you know, the way we look after people. And here we are. Who's that? Who's that gentleman? Anyone take us for who that might be?
Is that Walt?
It is.
Yeah.
Walt. Good old Walt. He said,
Sure.
he said these words back in the 50s, and I think they're still sort of prescient today. Do what you do so well, they'll want to see it again and bring their friends. He was wanting people to come to Disney World or go and see any of his films, cartoons, whatever they might be. People come and have a great experience. They will tell somebody else, and they'll come back again. Those words are said about 70 years ago. And despite what may have moved on technologically, this is the essence of word of mouth. Giving people a great customer experience, word of mouth. And we'll come on to some of the digital ways. And it comes back to this issue and a really interesting recent customer survey that was done of a number of retailers. And would anyone like to help me fill in these? How many people actually complain? Of those people who complain, how many leave without any communication? How many will never return? And how many people do you typically tell? So how many people do you reckon, as a percentage, consumers actually complain? Do you want to shout out a number?
20%.
20%. Any takers on 20? Thank you, Adrian. Any 20? So we'll work on 20.
8.
So by definition, then, of the 20% complain. So 80% will just vote, in effect, vote with their feet. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Have to work together. So you got 20% complain, 80% vote with their feet, and of that, percentage who leave, how many estimated will never return?
Probably about 100% of the 20% won't come back.
Come back.
What?
Okay,
No.
right.
Yeah.
And it's estimated with if you have a bad experience, how many people do you think you'll tell?
10.
10.
Mm.
Great. So they're the numbers.
Yeah.
Go on.
Yeah. Go on.
20,
No, go on.
80, 100, 10. 4% of people
4%.
complain.
You're right, Mark.
Mm.
So 96% walk out the door. And of that 96%, about 91% will never return.
Mm.
And it's interesting how you mentioned about dissatisfied customers will tell about 8 to 10. The thinking with the last bit is that people get, they're told enough and the kind of story gets a bit cold. But people do vote with their feet. They've got no obligation to tell anybody whether they're happy or not.
Mm.
Now, so giving a good experience is absolutely critical, and this is the essence of, I think, in most customer surveys, and it manifests itself in this term, in the phrase you may have heard of, social proof. Whether we like it or not, what happens is that those who complain will walk away. They'll tell 8 to 10 people, that's face to face, but many of them will get their little fingers out on the keyboard and they will go to social media, to review sites. If I was to ask the likes of Diane and Nicola on the call, whether people using different review sites and whether they keep a close eye on them.
Yes, we do, yes.
Yeah. Great. So you would be using what typically, Diane? You know, is it sort of Google reviews or Facebook or TripAdvisor? Or what?
No, every customer that comes gets sent a review to fill out to send back.
Oh, fantastic!
Send back to us. So yeah. So that does actually save. We don't get so many TripAdvisor reviews, to be fair, because they're not looking for a review site because it's going out with our software that we use for our booking system.
Right. Thank you. Well, I think it's absolutely great to do that. I think it really should encourage to get reviews, because we probably know from our own behaviour, if you're looking anywhere, you do, as a port of call, the first thing that often people do if they're searching online is they look onto Google, and then they'll probably look through whatever review sites that may be relevant. And people, whether they like it or not, tend to take it as gospel. Amazon is built with the idea about reviews and word of mouth, and it's happening around us. And it's surprising how many clients, a business I come across, don't even respond to reviews, and how they sit there and maybe not actively encourage them. So I would strongly suggest that it's one thing to give a great customer experience. It's another thing to actually prove you give a great customer experience. And the proof usually comes in the form of social proof, as we've now moved to a digital world. So I'd actively encourage any retailer to keep a really close eye on all review sites and to answer them straight away. So, in effect, move now to go through. There are only really 3 ways in which any business can increase its revenue. The 3 ways symbolize this: set more sales to existing customers, get more clients, new customers, and to get people to buy more often. It usually, no matter how big or how small the business is, it normally operates in that way. No matter if you're at one end of the scale, you're a landscape gardener, another end, you're a massive multinational business. To get more sales from your existing, more clients are usually the 2 ways in which most businesses try to think about developing the marketing. I can say without fear of contradiction, it is 10 times easier, quicker, cheaper to actually get more sales from your existing customers. So when you're thinking about marketing, which we'll come on to a marketing theory in a moment, it would make absolute 100% sense just to focus initially on your existing customers. So the question to ask is, do you each have one of these, a database of all your customers and some data in there that you can use to market to them? You know what your customers, who they are, where they are, and you're in regular correspondence with them. It can come in various different forms. So your database may well be emails, where you're using email marketing, obviously in conjunction with GDPR. You could be sending out newsletters, even by post, possibly. You can even do things by social media, by text, or WhatsApp groups, you name it. But the common thing is to keep in regular correspondence with your customers and to know what they are doing and what they are not doing. So you have an idea, hopefully, about people, whether they're returning to a business or not. So to get a database, there are lots of systems out there. For those of you who are familiar with CRM systems that are free online, where you can put data in, and you can do a lot of these things automated. And we'll cover that a little bit in digital marketing next time round. Right. So let's move on to a marketing theory, which hopefully you may have heard of. If not, I'll explain it. It's very much taking into account modern day technology, modern day thinking. And it's called paid, owned, earned. Has anyone on the webinar heard of paid, owned, earned? Nope. Well, I'll explain it. Very much the thinking is that if you would like to reach strangers, prospects, you're normally having to pay for that. So as you can see on the screen, you're having to invest in some form of activity, print, television, all different things. That is paid. The second group, and is where you would normally start, is that with your existing customers, you own them. You've got a relationship with them. You may have the database. People are buying from you. There's transactions taking between you and them, and they are your customers. You own them. Now, there's this third category called earned. They are fans. They are advocates. They don't buy from you, but they're known to you. So these would be your Facebook followers, your social media followers, atypically. Now, so ideally what you want to do is to convert fans into customers or prospects into customers. So your marketing will be spending a little bit of money trying to reach strangers. Most of it will be to start with people who you own, your customers. And the final bit where a lot of effort often is to reach people on social media who are your fans. Now, one thing that's really has changed with social media, and again, we'll cover it in a later webinar, is that these group of people called influencers, advocates. So you could, in effect, use a lot of these people to promote your marketing. It's interesting, we were joking earlier about Brute, for example, as a deodorant and a talc and whatever else it was, beauty product. They use the likes of Henry Cooper, you know, and think about some of the big brands who've used a celebrity in TV or radio advertising as an advocate for them. What's really changed in more recent times is a lot of the advocates are smaller people, smaller presence, but they are important in that they'll be advocates for a business. So what often happens for lots of retail brands, they will identify people who are advocates and sometimes pay them or encourage them to share your company's product offering on social media. So they might have 1,000 followers or 10,000 followers, and they will share it. So they'll reach a whole new audience for you. Again, cover this in a bit more detail further down the line on social media, but it's finding people, advocates, who can share what you're promoting. So paid, owned, earned is a good way of looking at your marketing, kind of segment things. Okay. So well, now for the remaining sort of 20 minutes or so of our time together, we will go through a marketing plan, one-page marketing plan. Right. Now, let's think about this. Let's assume, you don't mind me using you, Mark, as an example? Well, let's assume Mark is having a party at his house. All right, we have to say, forget this is theoretical. Social distancing and the rules. Imagine we were having a party at your house 2 years ago to make it correct. So Mark's having a party at his house 2 years ago. What would happen? What would you do in preparation for that party? Well,
start to think about who you're going to invite, start to think about what you're going to provide, start to think about the venue. So it's all preparation, basically, and then launching it out to get people interested.
Fantastic. You get the vol au vents in, get the baby shower in.
Oh, God, you're showing your age now.
Get the get the cheese and pineapple in.
Yeah.
You know, joking aside. So think of it as a part. Think of it as a party. Yeah, you're doing the preparations. You're inviting people. You're also thinking also who you don't want to invite. Don't want Auntie Hilda around here. Yeah, you know, but I am joking. So think of your marketing plan as being like a party. In effect, in its simplest, crudest terms, you are setting goals, making a to-do list, and planning it. So the party at Mark's house, choosing who to invite, giving people a reason to come, fancy dress, whatever it might be, music, birthday, etc., giving people a good time. And they leave that night, you know, feeling good, maybe had a nice time, whatever it is. It's the same principle for your marketing. The difference is that you want it with your marketing, you are wanting people to buy something. You are choosing people to promote to. You're giving them a reason to buy. And then you're hoping that there's a transaction taking place. But it's a one-page document and a to-do list. And it's got these parts to it. The first part is absolutely critical. Much the same way as the party, think about your own customers. Who are you trying to reach? And normally with a target audience, you'll segment them by usually by age, by sex, by geography, by some method of just saying who your audience is. So for example, if you feel your audience is middle class couples, and you're going to be thinking that using social media, you probably would there think that you may want to think about your message being geared to them and using the likes of Facebook. Whereas if you're trying to reach the millennials, you may think about a different message and a different platform. And if you're not using social media and you're just using it from a visual perspective in the shop or in the type of website you have, you're thinking about looking at your messaging not through your eyes, but through the eyes of the audience. And the best tip I can give you on this, if you're ever going to do any marketing whatsoever, is to try it out first to the people who would be your ideal audience. So if you're trying to reach an 18-year-old girl or a 50-year-old guy, find an 18-year-old or a 50-year-old guy and ask them what does it do the trick for them. So think about your target audience first and foremost. Who are your audience? Where are they? The best way I can think of this, I'll give you an example. It varies here. Imagine you are a manufacturer or provider of prams. You may have two different approaches. If you're a pram manufacturer, you may actually be a business where you're doing some work business to business. So you're supplying to retailers. But if you are a pram wholesaler or a retailer, you may be targeting end users. Or you may choose to do both. So you're thinking, are you targeting businesses? Are you targeting consumers? And if you're targeting businesses, it's slightly different. Underneath that, if you're targeting consumers, who may they be? So in this example, if you are a baby shop, you may be targeting expectant mums, newlyweds, grandparents. So the message might be different to each of those three targets. So sometimes it's not always clear as you think that you may have 3 or 4 different targets. Okay? First things first, your target audience. The next thing is to really think about what may be classified as a positioning statement, elevator pitch, strapline, logo, or slogan. Just something that people can associate with your business. And some of the most famous ones are things like that, which has become part of the modern lexicon. Does exactly what it says on the tin. Top marks for whoever thought that up. We're still saying those phrase 25 years after it was born. Now, I have no idea whether Ronseal is any better than its competition, but you've got a strong association. People they've come up with a strapline, tagline, and it keep doing it. There's a lot to be said for keeping your message simple and clear, and they've even registered this as a trademark. Even the more modern technology here, there's a messaging app, and people argue there's not much difference in one app and another, but they're saying their app, they're doing work for NASA. So they're supplying it to NASA. So they're talking about the app being for somebody who puts robots on Mars. They're elevating themselves. So it's Slack that elevate themselves. They're not just an app, but they supply NASA. It's a totally different approach than the one we've just seen. So may think really carefully about creating strapline that associates with your business. The next thing is probably the most important part of your marketing is thinking about the value proposition, which encompasses things like these 3 points. The brand, why people want to use your product, the experience people have, and in what way are you providing value or solving someone's problem? Brand, experience, and the product. And it comes in this form, so you think really carefully that your brand, your experience, your product, all part of the same. What do people feel when they walk in your business? What do they feel when they look at your website? What do they feel when they see your social media or any of your marketing? What's the image? Give you an example on this one. Be quite careful this one. Look at Marks and Spencer's. Do you think they might appear to be a bit old hat?
Trying to do their best to get away from it, though.
Really are, but with not disputing the product, not disputing the value or the experience. But you could argue that some of them like that, and House of Fraser, and some of the others on the high street probably didn't evolve in the same way.
Definitely.
So you can see it's all the time. It's the impression you gain and the type of customers, and a lot of this often is just getting the feedback from your customers. How you wish to be perceived. And your marketing will follow on. And I'll give you some examples now of people who've taken a bit of a risk. Down in Newark recently, walked past that shop cum cafe, feeling peckish. Took a risk, memorable, you can make your own judgment about that. Or Centre Barks as a kennels. Or a shop fitting business who had named all their vans because the company's called Morris and Spottiswoode, and each of their vans had the names of partnerships on. Or the local flooring company, Lino Ritchie. Hello, is it me looking floor?
I like that.
Now, you tell me, this is so personal. Feeling peckish. Tells you, you know, centre barks. You know, companies here naming
Clients.
their things. Yeah. Two ways of looking at this. Do they stand out from the crowd? Do they take a risk? Would you buy from them? All those questions kind of go through your head.
And I think it's important that you pitch it right, because depending on your business, if you take too cheap a tagline, you can actually criticize your own business if you're not careful.
Absolutely. I do like the idea of trying to be memorable, and that you may wish in doing that it's a really tightrope, this one, about whether you stand out from the crowd or you cheapen the brand. And you do take a risk of alienating your audience. And with this flooring, you know, the carpet fitting company, I think you have to be a certain age to appreciate the humour there.
Yeah, you do.
So if you are 30, you probably don't even get that.
I am 30. What are you on about?
But you can
Good
see.
job you can't see me.
You know, and I'm not gonna. I haven't got the answer to this, but you know, let's not kid ourselves. Retail's exceptionally competitive. The world is competitive. There probably comes a time when people will take a slight calculated risk to brand themselves in a more memorable way. How you do that is really trying to tailor it to your audience.
Yeah. It's funny, but when I worked for one of the large scale retailers, they were, one of our directors was one of these that took a risk, and he did one. I remember it very, very memorably, and it was plastered across all 750 stores, and basically it was a clown on the window saying "dozing clown," and you know what? Every customer that walked through that door said, "Are you closing down?"
Yeah.
And that's exactly how they read it. They didn't read the dozing clown. They read, "Oh, you're closing down." And we set the stores up as it looked like that, as a newer version of a sale. And you know what? Our sales were up about 600%. Just by purely this guy using the word annotation, spinning it round. Yeah. Very clever. He did a few that were a bit like Lionel Richie, mind you, but there were a few that worked exceptionally well.
It's a great point. If you walk down the high street as a casual customer and with no intention of buying anything at all, you get a flavour for what sticks out, what's memorable, what draws you in. But it comes at a risk. And that, I think, is probably one of the ultimate challenges I'm saying about thinking about your audience, your strapline, but really ultimately it's about the value and your brand being probably where I'd encourage anyone to spend the most amount of their time in this sort of early marketing. But then you are tailoring it, you know, very much. They're both hotels, but you know, you can appreciate they're going for a completely different market, completely different audience. But fundamentally, it's got TV and a bed, an ensuite. But the comparisons probably end there. But they both know they're aiming for a completely different market.
And I think, like you said earlier, Simon, it's your individual unique selling feature that actually will determine what your target audience is.
Yeah. So, third step. So, target audience, position, value, then the price, which follows on about a bit like Travelodge and a bit like the Ritz. You know, where are you positioning yourself? Again, it feeds into brand. The second bit, so the next bit is the place. So, the world has shifted. Are you going to be selling? How are you going to be selling? Is it through, you know, is it direct to customers, through somebody else, online, offline, multiple places there? The next thing then is very much the bit, as I mentioned earlier, what is your sales process going to be? You've got people in the store. How are you going to get upsell to them? how you're going to cross-sell to them, and about training of staff, that in terms of, you know, bricks and mortar, and then online, what, you know, if you're using AI or anything, which we'll talk about next week, to keep the customer on the site and to get them buying and to get them to the checkout. And that's very much a sales strategy. The other bit, as I mentioned, absolutely critically, you know, in what way will you stand out in terms of the service you offer and the follow-up you offer? And then final two bits. Once you've got all those bits in place, it then is ultimately about the promotion of your offering to the target audience, covering all these bits. So you're touching upon your sales, your service, the whole brand, the whole proposition to the company, and the means about you doing that. So whether you're going to do it through putting leaflets through people's doors, direct mail, you can do it through social media, through, you know, displays, however you choose to do it, to do promotion. The one thing I'd really counsel against when it comes to promotion in marketing is trying to do too much. Very few small businesses can keep 20 plates spinning. So it's sometimes doing a handful of things really well with a tight budget, and each one of the things you are doing is measurable. So if you are going to use email campaigns to customers, you know, there's a measurement associated to that. If you're going to run ads on Facebook, there's a measurement associated to that. If you're promoting online, Google Analytics, how, you know, what's working and what's not. And last but not least, your competition. Are you keeping a close eye on them? And how do you do that? Well, one of the best ways to do market research and to keep a close eye on your competition is to use the likes of Google Alerts. Free to use, free to set up, and you can follow and track your competition if you want to see what they're doing online or through social media. You can use the likes of mention.com. Also track yourselves. So you keep an eye on all these different things so you can see what's happening out there as far as your competition goes and see what they're doing. And so really what you end up with is this. You end up with a target market, you know, who you're targeting, the positioning statement, the strap line, the value, the price, the promotion activity, all the sales stuff, all the customer service, any campaigns, what's happening in the competition, and this should manifest itself in one page of a document. Once you've got this, it'll feed into the next two bits we're going to do the next week or so, is thinking, right, you've got all this in place. It's then the tools to use from a digital marketing perspective and the tools to use on social media. But I would strongly advocate not to do that until you've kind of got these bits first, because invariably what happens for many businesses, they're thinking about what to post online, what you want your website to look like. Well, it's kind of cart and horse. You ideally should have your brand, your position, your target audience first, and then you do all your tactics subsequently. Does that hopefully make sense? So, takes us nicely to question time. And has that hopefully made sense to everybody as a sort of strategic kind of marketing plan?
Yeah, took us through begin to end. Very straightforward, clear to understand. Yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you. Quite simply,
I guess, sorry,
Yeah.
Simon, Mark here from Ryedale. I guess the question is probably more aimed at Diane and Nicola,
Yeah.
isn't it? I mean, I'd be welcome your thoughts, Diane, Nicola, on whether or not that's been helpful or not, I guess.
Yeah, please do.
Yeah, no, it's been helpful for me. Thank you very much. I am booked on the next two, so hopefully it's all going to follow on. But yes, no, that's been very helpful. Thank you.
Good.
Yeah, same here. Yeah, there's definitely a couple of things from there that I kind of haven't done or have let slip doing. So yeah, it's been helpful. Thank you.
Great, thank you. I think it's interesting when I look at things is that a lot of businesses I encounter are focused very much on this sort of doing, which is digital marketing, social media, and all the activities. And this is often the bit that's the groundwork. So my advice would be really simple, just to summarize. I'd take a long, hard look at your own business, get some real independent feedback about the service, about the perception, and about the brand, the positioning. That's really useful to get. And then think of it very much who you're trying to target and what you feel the message should be. If you know the answer to that, one sheet of paper, hope the next bits we'll cover next time will make a little bit more sense, as opposed to sitting there thinking, ooh, I haven't posted on Facebook for a while, what am I going to say?
Simon, one question I've got. As part of the webinar program that we're rolling out, will it touch in the fact that, because you might be thinking like the two ladies just said then about the fact of, oh, I've not thought about that. What about if somebody goes away and thinks, do you know what, I need to reposition my business? Does that come into part of this, what we're going to be doing?
Yeah, well, there'll be two things on that. What we'll say is that we'll if you'd like, what we can do one-to-one. So I said for next week or any of the gap Wednesdays, if either Diane or Nicola want some time one-to-one, that is included in the program. So we can sit and have a look at your brand and do it what we've done now on a far more detailed scale, one-to-one, just that way. So you get some independent advice. But we'll do next time when we cover digital marketing, we'll be taking a couple of examples from people on the webinar and look at what they're doing and get some live feedback. So that addresses that. If anyone's willing to volunteer, of course, but we'll press gang somebody, and don't worry. But it's useful sometimes to get a bit of someone's willing to just get a bit of a feel, by just looking at what they're doing and so looking at someone's website, looking at their social media, and hopefully give people some feedback as to how it appears to the outside world. Because I really feel that's very helpful, because it's so much easier to critique somebody else's business than your own.
Yeah, very much so.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, just to conclude then, thank you very much for your time tonight. Appreciate that. So you'll get a copy of the slides. You'll get a link to the recording. You'll get an invite round if you want to do one-to-one stuff. That's absolutely fine. If anyone's got any questions in the meantime, please fire away. And I'm going to hand over to Mark or Adrian if you want to conclude matters for this evening.
I'll let you go first, Mark.
Yeah, thanks very much, Simon, and thank you, Diane and Nicola, for joining us. Hopefully we'll have a few more people attend the next couple of sessions. We did have a lot more people who'd signed up to this, but obviously at the moment things are changing quite considerably, almost on a daily basis. So obviously people had other things that needed their attention tonight. But as I said, hopefully that's been of use to you anyway. And as a council, this is part of a number of activities that we are undertaking as part of reopening the High Street safely project. You've probably seen around the market towns and other places the hand sanitizer facilities. That's just one element. There's also signage to remind people about the social distancing. And then there's other activity that we have planned. So, you know, as I say, this webinar is all part of that work to support you and your businesses through this most difficult time. And I should also add that Adrian is part of that programme. He's come on board as a town centre ambassador to physically be out there. He's permitted to walk the streets of our market towns and engage with you businesses, the retailers, just to provide that extra level of support and help when it's needed most. So I'm sure if Diane, Nicola, you've not met Adrian yet, he'll probably take this opportunity to follow up and maybe physically come and see you at some point in the not too distant future.
Yeah, thank you, Matt. Yeah, he's done my introduction for me, but we work as a double act, so that's great. Yeah, Dan, Nicola, I'm out and about, and like you say, like Mark said, I'm actually boots on the ground, a face of the council, and actually probably a set of ears to listen and talk to. And my background is, since I was 16, I've done everything large-scale retailing, small-tail retailing, front of house, back of house, everything from telecoms, tourism, food, fashion, and I've worked for some of the big brand names out there. So all what Sam's been doing tonight is something that I've been doing for years and years and years, and all where Mark, as in his background, all the business and financial side, I'm involved with that as well. So if you ever want to get in touch with me, it's adrian.hamilton@ryedale.gov. Drop me an email, and I'm out and about, and I'm more than happy to come and see you. Obviously, COVID distancing, things like that, and following those guidelines. But any help you need, there are some businesses that have already done that. But again, I'm out and about. If you want to speak to me, give me a shout.
That's great. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, without further ado, I'll sign off. Wish you hopefully you'll enjoy it tonight and learn from it, and may see you in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah,
Thank you.
thank you very much.
Thank you, Simon.
Brilliant.
Thank you.
Bye.
See you,
Thank you.
Dan. See you, Nicola.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks.